What's up, wrestling fans? I'm Steven from the Hills Maniacs, and today I'm going to be talking about some wrestlers on the current All Elite Wrestling roster that I think should have a run in WWE at some point in the future. I did a video like this a while back where I talked about 5 WWE people that should go to AEW, so now this is the reverse of that. So go check that one out if you haven't seen it yet. But without any further delay, let's get started. Before I do get started, I do want to clarify one thing. None of the people on this list are wrestlers that came from WWE and are now part of AEW, because AEW's roster is made up of a lot of ex-WWE wrestlers. So I will not be including any former WWE guys on this list, but this is exclusively people who have gone from but these are exclusively just people who have been competing in AEW and have had really no affiliation with WWE, or have not really ever competed on any of their main rosters or had any really TV time or anything of that nature on WWE programming. So that's kind of who I'm looking at in this list today. So first off, I'm going to start with Kenny Omega. I think he's one of those guys that can put on a match with pretty much anybody and not only make himself look good in that match, but also make the other guy look good as well. He's one of those elite level talent, and hence why he's like part of the creation of this company in the first place. He's one of the founding members of All Elite Wrestling and a member of the Elite. That's why it was called that in the first place. And that status kind of lives up to its name. Kenny Omega can do things in the ring that a lot of people can't. I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot of his matches other than what he's done in AEW, because I don't watch like New Japan or any of those things. So I don't really know a whole lot about him before joining AEW and everything. But from what I've seen, he just seems like one of those guys that's just automatically a main eventer no matter where he's at. He's got that status now where I think wherever you book him, he will be in maybe a title feud. He will be in a main event program of some kind. And I think in at least WWE's current regime, I don't know about the previous one with like Vince McMahon running things and all that kind of stuff, because of all the kooky nonsense that went on all those years in WWE. Like Kenny Omega would probably be literally like a janitor because he calls himself the cleaner sometimes. Like that would be the kind of gimmick he would have had back then. But under this new regime in WWE with Triple H, Paul Levesque running things, I think he would be your like WrestleMania main eventer just from coming into the company. Like he's on that same level that Cody Rhodes was. When Cody first returned to WWE, it was a really big deal, because not only was it he was leaving the company that he helped found in the first place, but it was also just Cody Rhodes had made himself more elite over the years. He had made himself a bigger star outside of WWE, and then him coming back, that's why it was such a big deal, because now he is that main event caliber star that they never saw in him the first time around. And I think Kenny Omega would be the same way. Like just going to WWE, it would feel like he'd never even leaving AEW. Like he wrestled the same way he does. He could make even like an enhancement talent seem like a major star or something, just from the way that he competes in the ring. And I think he's got what it takes to really put on a good match with anybody, and he wouldn't feel out of place among all the people in WWE. Plus, if you think about it, there's all these different like dream match scenarios that you can have. Kenny Omega versus Seth Rollins, I think, has been a dream match that people have had for a while, just because those two sort of have similar styles in the ring. I know Kenny Omega's been doing this a lot longer than Seth Rollins, I believe, but they still kind of have that like charisma in the ring where them two facing each other in the main event of WrestleMania or whatever would be like an instant classic. It'd be like your Stone Cold and The Rock kind of thing. All these different dream matches can happen if Kenny Omega went to WWE, and these are matches we probably wouldn't get to see if he stayed in AEW. So like hopefully sometime in the future, maybe for his retirement run or whatever, maybe we'll see Kenny Omega jump ship to WWE and finish off his career there. Similar to AJ Styles, you can rekindle that feud and all that kind of stuff. So I just feel like he would belong there among all those WWE guys and really elevate the program to new heights, honestly, because of his major star status that he has attached to his name. Next up on this list, I actually have Hangman Adam Page. I just think lately, like the work that he's done with Swerve Strickland and that rivalry and everything else, I think has elevated him back up to this main event level status that he had, like when he was world champion and all that kind of stuff. I think he's really good at acting too, or at least he's gotten a lot better at it. He's playing this like sort of crazed lunatic that's like obsessed with, trying to beat Swerve Strickland and everything. And it just seems like this genuine reaction. Like, I want to hurt this man because of what he's done, even though it was 6 months ago or whatever. Like, all he's been focused on was going after Swerve. And I know I'm just basing it, like, his work just on this feud, but, like, everything he's done since coming to AEW and everything, he competed for the inaugural All Elite Wrestling Championship, so obviously they saw something in him from the get-go. Like, he competed against Chris Jericho in that match and everything. And I think, honestly, he's kind of on this similar career path to, like, what Drew McIntyre is currently doing in WWE. Like, if I was to compare him to someone on WWE's current roster, I would say it's Drew McIntyre, because just the way those two compete with that sort of, like, intensity in the ring and also playing that sort of deranged psychopath that's obsessed with a character. Like, they've had similar feuds as of late, like with Drew and CM Punk, and then Hangman and Swerve Strickland is kind of a similar feud in a way. Like, they're both costing themselves everything and they're obsessed with going after this person. They both play that character really well, and I think Hangman playing that role in WWE would add this new depth to their roster and sort of give this new edgy character to the roster that, like, maybe people would be terrified of. He feels like he would fit the bill for playing one of those roles in WWE, and that's kind of something that WWE doesn't really have right now necessarily. Like, they got like the Wyatt Six and stuff, but that's really like the only crazy people that I can think of that they have right now. And so bringing in somebody like Hangman to play that role of this just kind of deranged, obsessive man who's just trying to make it and become a world champion and that sort of thing, I think he would do really well playing that role in WWE. And I think that would just kind of come naturally to him. He's gotten really good at, just whatever character or like whatever gimmick they're giving to him, whether it was when he was sort of a drunkard, after he lost the world title, or he couldn't beat Kenny Omega and he kind of just was drinking and everything and needed motivation. He played that kind of role. Now he's playing this psychopath. And I think we need more of those kind of characters in WWE right now to really spice things up and to give you that sort of like shock factor. Like, well, who's going to beat this man if he has like nothing to lose and he's just like deranged and obsessed with winning? And no matter what you do to him, he's not going to stay down. Like, that kind of character, I think, could really elevate WWE in a big way. Next on the list is actually Orange Cassidy. I just think, WWE has always been known for having these wacky characters anyways. And even when they have these really serious and intense moments or these intense blood feuds that, culminate at WrestleMania and that kind of thing, there's always been room for this sort of humor. And even though they are sort of branching away from this like PG era that they've been in, they still have these wacky characters like R-Truth and people like him, just to kind of be the comic relief on the show. Because if you have everything that's like so intense and serious, I feel like people might like lose interest in it almost. So if you have like something funny happening every once in a while, it gets people's attention back up again, gives you a good laugh before the next match or whatever, before you have to watch your hero lose the next match or whatever. And that, they've always had those kind of characters, and that's the character that Orange Cassidy has been from the get-go since they brought him to AEW. I don't know if he played that similar role in like other promotions before they brought him into AEW. I don't know how long he's been wrestling. He plays that sort of like wacky, like uncaring character really well, like where he just gets in the ring nonchalantly. He's doing these like really slow kicks to people and all that kind of stuff. But then he also every now and then pulls out these big moves and all of a sudden like, oh, the momentum just shifted. Like, he's not just some funny guy. He actually can compete in the ring as well. I'm impressed with a lot of the stuff he's done in the ring lately, like especially when he was the international champion in AEW. You know, he was putting on some really good matches with a lot of the really top tier athletes in AEW. So he has shown that he can kind of play sort of both sides of the coin. He can be almost like a main event level character while also keeping that level of comedy to him that makes people underestimate him, and then that's when he pulls out the big moves. I just love the way like he competes and moves around in the ring and everything else, like his hands are in his pockets, all that kind of stuff. He just does not care. Even his entrance, you know, his like Titantron and all that stuff is just like, I don't give a crap about this. He's announced from wherever, weighing whatever, like he does not care at all. And I think it's all portrayed really well by Orange Cassidy, and that kind of character would fit in WWE, and just the interactions between him and like R-Truth I think would be really hilarious to see, honestly. And like I said, aside from that, he's just really good in the ring, so that's kind of like a bonus as well. You get this sort of like champion level wrestler, but then also you get your comic-y gimmick every now and then, so it kind of works out both ways there as well. So that kind of, they can do whatever with Orange Cassidy, and I feel like he would pull it off really well. Next up is actually a tag team, so it's kind of technically two people, but I just went with one because they are known for being together as a tag team more so than single stars, and that is the Young Bucks, the current EVPs of AEW. Looking past their like heel antics that they've been doing and everything else, they are really truly one of the best tag teams in the world of professional wrestling at the moment. The stories they're able to tell in the ring, I think the way that they compete, whether they are heels or baby faces, whatever, I think, you know, they will go down as one of the greatest tag teams of all time. I don't know what it is about them. I just think no matter who they're in there with, they can put on a really good match. And honestly, WWE's tag team division has sort of been lacking lately. I know I heard that they might be getting the Lucha Brothers, and the Motor City Machine Guns from TNA might be actually signing with WWE. But to have a team at the level that the Young Bucks are at right now, I think could really show off their tag team division in a big way. They could make stars out of any of these current tag teams, like the Street Profits. Heck, even like Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, like that. I'm sure they could get a good match. The Young Bucks could get a good match out of them as well. Like, just no matter what teams they put in there, I feel like that would elevate WWE's tag team division really well and show off that they do have these talented teams, even though they have so very few teams at the moment. The Young Bucks, I think, would put a spark into that tag team division that honestly they've been lacking for the last several years. They've only really had a couple really good teams over the last couple of years, like even the last decade or so, like the New Day and the Usos and those kind of people. So there hasn't really been that sort of tag team that could that could really get people invested in the tag team division more so than I think the Young Bucks would if they were part of WWE's roster. And I think what's great about them the most is that they put in effort into their characters, whether they're the heels or the baby faces, whatever. What they wear to the ring, their presentation, everything else. Like, they put thought and time and effort into all of that, no matter what roles they're playing. And I think that's the kind of wrestler that you need. Someone that cares enough to actually show these little minute details in the way that they compete or in the way that they come out to the ring or whatever. And the Young Bucks have always been really good at that, I feel like. Not just, you know, competing in the ring and everything else. Like, they're good at those things as well. And I think that's why they're like the full package in terms of tag teams. And WWE could really benefit from having the Young Bucks on their roster. And finally, for this list, I'm going to talk about someone who I feel is probably one of the biggest like rising stars in professional wrestling over the last like 5 or so years. And that, of course, is the devil himself, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. I don't know what it is about him. I just think, just like I said with the Young Bucks, like, you can tell that he puts in the work to be the character that they need him to be. Whether they need him to be a babyface, which we did kind of see briefly, or a heel, he still plays a scumbag no matter what role he's given. He's a good guy, but he's still a scumbag to people and still doesn't really like anybody. Like, he's just kind of like that school bully character almost, is what he feels like he's really good at playing, and which is why I think he's better at being a heel than a babyface. But like, the crowd is behind him, whether he's a heel or not. We are reacting to him. We are responding to everything he says in the ring, everything that he does in the ring, and everyone he competes against, every feud he gets into. People are invested in it. We want to see who he's competing against next, who he's going to be in a feud with next. And I think that's just because of the way that he's able to present his character to all of us as we watch the program every week. We kind of look forward to every MJF segment because we don't know where it's going to go. We don't know what kind of rant he's going to go on. He's great on the mic. He's great in the ring. And for such a young age, you know, he's only, I think, like 20 or his mid-20s or whatever at this point. It's very impressive what he's been able to do. He's been that main eventer as the world champion. He was briefly at the international or American champion. And no matter what role they throw at him, I feel like he can play that really well. He's a great actor. He tells a great story in the ring in every match he's in, even if it's a brief one, whatever. There's always that story. Just everything. He's like the total package for, you know, like singles wrestlers and stuff. And I think WWE would be fools not to bring him to their roster if they ever were presented with the chance, because he's definitely a WrestleMania main event guy, I would say, at this point. Just from that work he's done over the last 5 years, I think he could be considered one of the greatest of all time, just in terms of the presentation of his character, kind of like what I said with the Young Bucks. He's on this other level that a lot of these wrestlers that have been wrestling for 15 plus years haven't even reached yet. He obviously understands the world of professional wrestling and what the audience wants to see. He can sort of adapt to any situation almost. Like, if something comes up, someone gets injured in a story or he gets injured himself, he can still make it work. That's kind of what we saw in his feud with Adam Cole. Like, he got injured, Adam Cole got injured, but they still continued with the story anyways, and he still managed to pull off some miraculous things within that story to keep us invested for a while. And I don't know if he has any like creative control on his character or anything, but if he was given creative control, I think he would outshine even people like John Cena and Stone Cold and all those kind of people. He could be maybe the greatest professional wrestler in WWE history because of all those assets that he brings to the table if they were to put him on their roster. And I just love the work that he's been doing since joining AEW. I know he did sign an extended contract with AEW, so he will be there for a while longer, but I would like to see him in the setting of WWE at some point in the future, because I feel like he could fit in still with all the wacky stuff that sometimes happens at WWE, and he would still make it work. He would be that like sort of serious person that's interacting with R-Truth, like, what the heck are you doing? Like, why are you in my presence type of thing. He could pull off that school bully character like really well with all the people that are in WWE currently. And I think that no matter what promotion he's in, he's a major draw. You know, like the people, like I said, the audience interacts with him. We are invested in everything he does, and I think him coming to WWE would put a lot more eyes on WWE and maybe even take some fans from AEW that would follow him to WWE and get more eyes on their product, because that's just the caliber of wrestler he is now in just his short like 5 or so years of being a professional wrestler. So that concludes my list, but there is an honorable mention as well I did want to say, and that's Don Callis. I just think, like, you know, WWE doesn't really have a lot of managers nowadays. I don't think they do that too much. I think obviously the greatest manager they've ever had, I think, is Paul Heyman. His work with Roman Reigns, his work with Brock Lesnar, everything else. He did a really fantastic job playing that manager character, and we don't really have a whole lot in WWE now. So having someone like Don Callis as a manager of some like really hated heel like Dominic Mysterio or somebody, I think would just add to that level of heat that those kind of characters normally get, those heel characters. Just having Don Callis there in WWE would make a lot of people hate the person that they sort of like pair him with, which is kind of what you want out of your heel. He just oozes that sort of like almost like corrupting, like sort of devilish figure that's like whispering in your ear that nobody wants to see. Everybody wants him gone. They boo when he walks out. And I think WWE needs that kind of heel manager type figure that they haven't really had in a long time. So I think Don Callis would fill that role really well. So there you go, guys. That was my list. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. Also, like I said at the beginning, check out my other video where I talked about 5 WWE guys that I think should go to AEW. This is kind of the reverse of that. Also, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more, and check out all the other wrestling content we have on this channel as well, along with everything else we've got going on. Thank you for watching the video, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.